Negativity and constant complaining are among the most destructive habits that can slowly push people away, especially when someone grows old. Human beings naturally seek comfort, positivity, and hope in their social interactions. When a person constantly radiates negativity, those around them begin to feel emotionally drained and unappreciated. Over time, this leads to avoidance, distance, and even hidden resentment. An elderly person who always complains about their health, finances, family members, or society may not realize that while their concerns might be valid, the repetitive negative expression of those concerns can suffocate the emotional atmosphere of those listening. This habit becomes even more noticeable in old age, when people have more time to reflect and talk, but if those reflections are consistently bitter or gloomy, they can poison relationships rather than nurture them. One of the main reasons negativity feels unbearable is because it has a contagious effect. If an old person constantly speaks about how the world has become worse, how no one respects them anymore, or how nothing is the same as it used to be, the younger people listening may begin to feel hopeless too. They may start associating that person with sadness, tension, or even guilt. For example, if a grandparent always complains that no one visits them enough, instead of encouraging visits, it makes children and grandchildren feel judged and unappreciated when they do visit. Over time, they may prefer to avoid rather than face those complaints. The intention behind the complaining might be to seek attention, love, or care, but the effect is usually the opposite. People are naturally drawn to those who uplift them, not to those who bring them down. Another aspect of constant negativity in old age is the focus on past regrets. Many older people frequently complain about opportunities they missed, mistakes they made, or how life did not treat them fairly. While self-reflection is healthy, when it turns into a cycle of regretful storytelling with no lesson or positive outlook, it becomes exhausting for others. Younger generations often have their own challenges, and when they hear elders repeatedly express bitterness about the past, they feel either dismissed or burdened. It creates an invisible wall that stops the flow of warmth in the relationship. A grandfather who says, "In my time, things were better, and now everything is ruined," is unknowingly telling his grandchildren that their lives are meaningless compared to his past. This negative narrative makes others feel disrespected and creates hidden resentment. Health complaints are another common form of negativity in old age. It is natural for elderly people to face physical challenges, but when every conversation turns into a long list of aches, pains, and medical problems, it can overwhelm others. Family members do care, but when the focus is only on sickness, they may feel helpless and even guilty for not being able to do enough. Constant complaining about health also shifts attention away from moments of joy or gratitude that could strengthen bonds. For example, instead of saying, "My knees hurt so much every day," an elder could say, "My knees hurt, but I am still grateful I can walk to the garden." The way suffering is expressed can either inspire empathy or drive people away. Sadly, many older people do not realize this distinction, and their endless complaints become a source of irritation rather than compassion. Negativity also damages respect. Society already tends to sideline elderly people, and when they add to this by constantly complaining about politics, youth behavior, or cultural changes, they risk confirming the stereotype of the grumpy old person. This stereotype makes others dismiss their wisdom and experience. Instead of being seen as a source of guidance, they are seen as a source of complaints. For instance, when an older person always says, "Young people today are lazy, selfish, and careless," younger people may stop listening, even if there is some truth in the statement. Complaining closes hearts, while constructive sharing opens them. It is also important to understand the psychological root of negativity in old age. Many elderly people feel powerless, lonely, or unappreciated. Complaining becomes a way to express inner frustration. Sometimes, it is not even about the actual problem but about the deep need to be heard. For example, a grandmother may complain about the food being too salty, but what she really wants is to feel noticed and respected. Unfortunately, when negativity becomes the default mode of communication, others stop listening carefully and start avoiding interactions altogether. This creates a painful cycle where the elderly person complains because they feel lonely, but their complaining makes them even lonelier. Breaking this cycle requires self-awareness and effort. An elderly person who realizes the harm of constant negativity can begin to change by practicing gratitude. Instead of focusing only on what is wrong, they can highlight what is right. For example, instead of saying, "Nobody cares about me," they could say, "Thank you for visiting me, it means so much." This simple shift transforms the energy of the conversation. People feel appreciated rather than blamed, and as a result, they want to spend more time with the elder. Gratitude is like sunlight. It warms the hearts of those around, while negativity is like a cold shadow that makes everyone uncomfortable. Another way to reduce negativity is storytelling with a positive purpose. Elders naturally have many life experiences, but when those stories are told with bitterness, they repel listeners. If the same stories are told with humor, wisdom, or encouragement, they attract listeners. For example, instead of saying, "Life was so hard, and I had nothing," an elder could say, "Life was tough, but those challenges taught me how to stay strong." The difference is subtle but powerful. People admire resilience, not endless complaints. By reshaping narratives, elderly people can turn their experiences into a source of inspiration rather than a burden. In the end, negativity and constant complaining not only make others secretly dislike or avoid the elderly person, but they also harm the elder's own peace of mind. When someone repeats negative thoughts, they reinforce them in their own brain, deepening their sadness and frustration. Positivity, on the other hand, creates a ripple effect of warmth, drawing others closer and giving the elder more support, love, and respect. Aging is inevitable, but becoming bitter is a choice. By choosing gratitude, humor, and constructive conversation, an elderly person can transform from being secretly hated to being deeply cherished. People remember not just what was said but how they felt in someone's presence. If an elder leaves others feeling uplifted, hopeful, and valued, they will never face hidden hatred. They will face lasting love. Stubbornness and resistance to change are traits that become more visible as people grow older. And while they may feel natural to the elderly person, they often create frustration and hidden dislike among those around them. Human beings live in a constantly evolving world where new ideas, technologies, and lifestyles appear every day. Younger generations adapt quickly, but older individuals sometimes find comfort in routines, traditions, and old ways of thinking. This comfort can slowly turn into a rigid refusal to accept new ways, making interactions difficult. For family members, friends, and caregivers, dealing with someone who is unwilling to compromise or consider different perspectives can be exhausting. Over time, stubbornness turns into a barrier that separates the elderly from others, creating distance and even resentment. One of the main reasons stubbornness causes hidden hatred is that it blocks healthy communication. For example, if children suggest that their aging parent should see a doctor, use a hearing aid, or make safety adjustments in the home, a stubborn parent might respond with anger, saying, I don't need help. I've lived this long without it. While the elder may see this as protecting independence and pride, the family sees it as unnecessary resistance that puts health and safety at risk. When advice or concern is always met with rejection, others feel unvalued and powerless. They may begin to avoid giving help or even avoid spending time with the elder to escape the stress of constant arguments. Stubbornness also affects relationships across generations. Younger people often bring fresh ideas about career, education, relationships, and lifestyle. When elders immediately dismiss these ideas by saying, "This is wrong, in our time we never did it like that," it creates tension. Instead of guiding with wisdom, the elder is seen as judgmental and inflexible. For example, a grandparent who refuses to understand why their grandchild wants to study abroad, use social media, or choose a different career path may unintentionally push the grandchild away. The young person may still love and respect the elder, but inside they start to feel resentment, thinking, "They will never understand me." Over time, this gap grows larger, leaving the elder feeling ignored and the younger person feeling misunderstood. Another area where resistance to change becomes toxic is technology. Today, many aspects of communication, healthcare, banking, and entertainment are connected to digital devices. When elderly people stubbornly refuse to learn even the basics, they create frustration for those who must constantly assist them. For example, refusing to learn how to use a smartphone, an ATM, or a video call might force family members to do everything for them. This dependency is not always a problem, but when combined with an unwillingness to try, it feels unfair. The younger generation often interprets this as laziness or arrogance, even if the elder genuinely struggles. On the other hand, elderly people who show even small efforts to adapt are often admired and supported because they show openness rather than stubbornness. Stubbornness also impacts health decisions. Many older adults refuse to follow medical advice, change their diets, or take necessary medications because they believe they know better. This frustrates family members who care about them. A father who insists on eating unhealthy food despite diabetes, or a mother who refuses to use a walker despite repeated falls, places unnecessary stress on the family. The family feels trapped between respecting independence and watching someone they love harm themselves. Over time, this stress builds into resentment. Instead of sympathy, people start to secretly dislike the elder's behavior, even if they still love them deeply as a person. It is also important to understand why stubbornness increases with age. As people grow older, they face loss of control in many areas. Health declines, careers end, friends pass away, and independence becomes limited. To protect their sense of dignity, many cling tightly to their habits and decisions. Stubbornness becomes a shield against the fear of change and the fear of becoming irrelevant. Unfortunately, while this may give the elder a feeling of strength, it often alienates others. People may respect the need for independence, but when stubbornness crosses into unreasonable rejection of help, it creates unnecessary conflict. The emotional damage of stubbornness is not always visible. For example, children who grow up with stubborn parents often learn to stop expressing themselves, knowing their words will be rejected. Spouses may feel lonely because compromise disappears from the relationship. Caregivers may feel burned out from constantly arguing. Even friends may stop visiting, tired of hearing the same rigid opinions. The elder may not notice this withdrawal at first, but over time, they start feeling isolated and complain that no one cares anymore, not realizing that their own resistance pushed people away. At its core, Stubbornness destroys trust. When someone refuses to listen, compromise, or adapt, others stop trusting that person to be a partner in problem solving. Trust is replaced with frustration. For example, if an elder refuses to sign important documents, update a will, or make necessary safety changes in the home, their family begins to see them not as wise but as a source of risk and delay. Instead of respect, irritation grows, and in some cases, hidden dislike develops. People may still fulfill their duties toward the elder, but they do so without warmth, which creates cold relationships. Breaking free from stubbornness requires humility and self-awareness. An elder who learns to say, "Maybe I don't know everything, let me listen," instantly transforms the relationship. Younger people feel respected and valued when their opinions are considered. This does not mean the elder must agree with everything, but simply showing openness reduces tension. For example, an elder who says, "I'm not comfortable with this new technology, but I'm willing to learn if you help me," gains admiration instead of resentment. The willingness to adapt shows courage, not weakness. Stubbornness can also be softened by remembering that relationships are more valuable than being right. Sometimes elders argue endlessly about small things like food preferences, traditions, or household routines. If they learn to let go of small battles, peace replaces conflict. Choosing harmony over ego creates stronger bonds with family and friends. Life becomes easier for everyone, and instead of being secretly hated, the elder is remembered as kind and flexible. Ultimately, stubbornness and resistance to change are not just personality flaws. They are behaviors that can shape how others feel about an aging person. A stubborn elder may believe they are protecting their dignity, but in reality, they may be building walls of resentment around themselves. By practicing openness, compromise, and willingness to adapt, an elder can turn stubbornness into strength. People admire resilience, but they dislike rigidity. In a world that is always changing, the ability to remain flexible ensures that love, respect, and companionship never fade, even in old age. Overdependence without gratitude is one of the most common reasons why people secretly dislike or resent the elderly, even when they continue to care for them out of duty or love. Dependence in old age is natural. As health declines and energy weakens, seniors often need help with daily tasks such as cooking, cleaning, paying bills, or even moving around. But the way dependence is expressed makes all the difference. When an older person acknowledges support with gratitude and appreciation, family members and caregivers feel rewarded and motivated to continue helping. When dependence is mixed with entitlement, complaints, or lack of acknowledgement, it breeds silent bitterness. Over time, loved ones begin to feel used, unappreciated, and emotionally drained. One of the most damaging forms of overdependence is the expectation that family members will drop everything for the elder without considering their own responsibilities. For example, a parent might call their adult child multiple times a day for minor tasks that could easily be managed with some effort or patience, without realizing that the child has work, children, and other obligations. The parent may believe that this is natural since children owe their parents everything, but the repeated demand without recognition creates tension. When a child constantly feels pressured and never hears a word of thanks, their care begins to feel like a burden rather than love. Overdependence often appears in financial matters as well. Some elderly people, instead of managing their resources carefully or making compromises, continue to rely heavily on children or relatives for money. If this dependence is accompanied by gratitude, family members often provide willingly. But when it comes with constant complaints like, "You don't give me enough," or "You're supposed to take care of me," resentment builds. Money is already a sensitive subject, and when dependence feels like entitlement rather than genuine need, it damages relationships deeply. Another common area is emotional dependence. Many elderly people feel lonely and seek constant companionship. While it is normal to want company, demanding that children, grandchildren, or caregivers spend all their free time with them can create hidden anger. For instance, if an elder complains every time their family goes out, travels, or spends time with friends, it makes the family feel guilty and trapped. The elder may see this as love, but the family feels it as control. Instead of being missed with love, the elder becomes someone others want to escape from because their presence always comes with pressure. What worsens overdependence is the lack of gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful emotional exchange that makes helpers feel valued and respected. A simple, "Thank you," or "I appreciate what you're doing," can transform a stressful duty into a joyful act of love. But when an elder takes everything for granted, expecting care as if it is owed, resentment builds quickly. For example, if a daughter spends hours cooking, cleaning, or driving her parent to the hospital, but the parent only complains about what was not done perfectly, it crushes her motivation. Instead of feeling like a loving daughter, she feels like an unpaid servant. That silent hurt turns into dislike, even if she never says it openly. This problem often spreads to grandchildren and younger generations as well. Young people today grow up with busy lives in a fast-paced world. When they make an effort to visit or help their grandparents but are met only with criticism, such as, "You don't visit enough," or "You're always busy with your phone," they feel unappreciated. They may still visit out of duty, but their visits lose warmth. Over time, they might start avoiding interactions to protect themselves from negativity. The elder does not realize that instead of drawing their family closer, their dependence and lack of gratitude are pushing them further away. There is also a psychological factor behind overdependence. Many elderly people fear being forgotten, useless, or irrelevant. Dependence becomes a way of holding on to importance in their family's lives. By constantly demanding attention or help, they ensure that others cannot ignore them. But the strategy backfires. Instead of feeling important, they end up being silently resented. What they truly crave, love, connection, and respect, becomes harder to receive because their behavior creates resistance. The key to breaking this cycle lies in balance. Dependence itself is not shameful. Everyone, at some stage of life, needs support. The problem arises when dependence lacks humility and appreciation. Elders who openly recognize the sacrifices of others earn deeper love and respect. For example, if a mother says to her son, "I know you're busy, but thank you for taking me to the doctor today. I don't know what I would do without you," the son will feel encouraged and even proud to help. The same act, if met with complaints like, "You're late again, you never care about me," will fill him with frustration. The difference is not in the act of dependence but in the way it is received. Another way to reduce overdependence is to practice self-reliance where possible. Even small efforts, such as trying to do light tasks independently, learning to use simple technology, or managing personal matters without always calling for help, make a huge difference. When family members see that the elder is trying their best and only asking for help when truly necessary, they feel more willing and eager to assist. Independence shows dignity and responsibility, while helplessness without effort feels manipulative. Gratitude can also be expressed through kindness. Elders who show warmth, share blessings, pray for their children, or offer words of encouragement create positive energy around themselves. When family members feel emotionally nourished in return for their efforts, they never see dependence as a burden. For instance, a grandmother who lovingly says, "May God bless you for helping me," gives her children a sense of reward far beyond material thanks. Such words strengthen bonds and replace resentment with affection. Ultimately, overdependence without gratitude damages both sides. The elder feels neglected and unloved, while the family feels unappreciated and used. The tragedy is that both sides want love but fail to express it properly. The elder seeks attention, but by demanding rather than appreciating, they push it away. The family wants to care, but without acknowledgement, they grow tired. The solution lies in awareness. If elders embrace gratitude and make conscious efforts to value the help they receive, their dependence will not be seen as a burden but as a privilege. Their family will not secretly hate them but will cherish the opportunity to serve them. In the end, people do not remember how much they did for someone, they remember how that person made them feel while doing it. If an elder makes their children feel guilty, used, or unappreciated, resentment grows. If they make their children feel respected, loved, and blessed, affection grows stronger. Dependence is inevitable, but gratitude is a choice. Choosing gratitude ensures that in old age, people are surrounded not by reluctant helpers but by genuinely loving hearts. Judging and interfering in others' lives is one of the most common behaviors that push people away from the elderly, often creating silent resentment and dislike even within their own families. As people grow old, they accumulate a lifetime of experiences, struggles, and lessons. Many elders believe it is their responsibility to share this wisdom with the younger generation. While guidance is valuable, the problem arises when advice turns into judgment, criticism, and unwanted interference. Instead of feeling supported, younger people feel suffocated, disrespected, and controlled. Over time, these negative emotions transform into hidden hatred, even if outwardly the family continues to show respect. One of the most frustrating habits of judgmental elders is the constant comparison between the past and the present. For example, an elder might say, "In our time, children respected their parents more," or, "We worked harder without complaining, unlike you people today." While these statements may reflect some truth, they come across as dismissive of the younger generation's struggles. Every era has its own challenges. Modern life brings pressures such as fast-paced jobs, technology-driven expectations, and high living costs. When elders ignore these realities and only glorify their own time, they fail to connect with the younger generation. Instead of feeling inspired, the young feel judged, creating emotional distance. Interference often takes the form of unsolicited advice. Many older parents and grandparents involve themselves in their children's personal decisions, from career choices to marriage, parenting styles, and even daily household matters. A daughter-in-law, for instance, may feel constantly criticized if her cooking, cleaning, or child-rearing methods are always compared to how the elder used to do it. Even if the elder's intention is to help, the constant interference sends a message: "You are not good enough, and my way is the only right way." This creates resentment not just toward the elder but also within family relationships, weakening trust and harmony. Judging personal lifestyles is another common problem. Elders may criticize clothing choices, hobbies, the use of technology, or even the way younger people talk. Comments like, "Why do you dress like this?" or "You're wasting your life on your phone," may seem harmless to the elder, but to the younger person, they feel like attacks on identity. Instead of motivating positive change, such criticism causes rebellion or avoidance. Young people may stop sharing their lives with the elder, fearing judgment. This lack of openness leads to further misunderstanding, as the elder complains that children don't talk anymore, not realizing their constant judging is the root cause. In many families, elders interfere most heavily in marriage and parenting matters. They may try to control how their adult children run their homes, how they raise their kids, or how they manage finances. For example, an elder may criticize parents for being too lenient or too strict, forgetting that times have changed and parenting approaches are different today. This creates tension not only between the elder and their child but also between spouses. A son may feel torn between respecting his parents and supporting his wife, leading to conflict. Over time, what begins as guidance turns into a destructive force that damages family unity. The emotional impact of judgment and interference is often underestimated. Constant criticism lowers self-esteem and creates bitterness. Younger people may love their elders deeply but secretly dislike being around them. They may visit out of duty rather than affection, leading to cold interactions. For example, grandchildren may avoid conversations with grandparents if they know every choice they make will be judged, from studies and career goals to friendships and social habits. What could have been a loving, supportive bond turns into a relationship marked by silence and avoidance. It is important to understand why elders fall into this habit. Aging often brings a loss of control. Retirement, declining health, and reduced independence can make elders feel powerless. By interfering in their children's lives, they regain a sense of authority and relevance. Judging others becomes a way of asserting that their knowledge and values still matter. Unfortunately, instead of earning respect, this behavior often backfires. People respect wisdom that is shared humbly, but they resent opinions that are forced upon them. Breaking this cycle requires awareness and restraint. Elders who wish to maintain strong bonds with their families must learn the difference between guidance and interference. Guidance is offered with love, respect, and at the right time, while interference is imposed without invitation. For example, if a daughter asks her mother for advice on raising children, the advice is welcomed. But if the mother constantly criticizes the daughter's methods without being asked, it becomes interference. Timing and tone make all the difference. Respecting boundaries is essential. Younger generations today value independence and personal choice. When elders show respect for these boundaries, they earn deeper trust and affection. For instance, instead of saying, "You must marry the person I choose," an elder who says, "I trust your decision, but if you want my opinion, I will share it," gains admiration. This approach allows the younger person to feel in control while still respecting the elder's wisdom. Another powerful way to reduce judgment is through empathy. Elders who try to understand the struggles of modern life, such as the stress of jobs, the speed of technology, and the challenges of balancing work and family, connect more strongly with the younger generation. Instead of criticizing, they can encourage and support. For example, instead of saying, "You spend too much time on your phone," they could say, "I know your work depends on technology, just remember to rest your eyes too." Such statements convey care without judgment, creating closeness rather than distance. Humility also plays a big role. Elders who admit that they don't know everything about today's world gain more respect than those who pretend to know it all. A grandfather who says, "I don't fully understand your work, but I'm proud of your effort," is far more appreciated than one who dismisses modern careers as meaningless. When elders show humility, They open the door to learning from the younger generation, creating a relationship of mutual respect rather than one-sided criticism. In the end, judging and interfering in others' lives may come from love, but it often destroys the very love it seeks to protect. People secretly begin to dislike being around elders who make them feel small, unworthy, or constantly corrected. By respecting boundaries, offering advice only when asked, practicing empathy, and expressing humility, elders can transform relationships. Instead of being remembered as controlling and judgmental, they will be remembered as wise, kind, and supportive. Growing old does not mean losing relevance. It means shifting from control to guidance, from judgment to encouragement, and from interference to understanding. Elders who embrace this shift ensure that their families not only respect them but genuinely enjoy their presence. They are loved, not out of duty, but out of genuine affection. In the final stage of life, this is the greatest gift: relationships full of warmth rather than hidden resentment, hearts that draw closer rather than drift away.